Welcome to Open My Eyes podcast, where we learn to become our authentic selves, the best version of ourselves. I'm your host, Nathaniel Deweese. Welcome back. We have just finished our first maintenance update, and I felt like that was necessary because there's a lot of things that we're kind of finding, falling through the gaps. So, and maintenance update. It's not an episode, but it really just kind of helps trying to get everybody on the same page. So there's a lot of good, juicy detail, a lot of good information in that. So when you have time, if you haven't already, I would love for you to go back and listen to that episode so we can all kind of be on the same page. I want to just start off and say, man, like this week for me has just been a weird week. I've dealt with a lot of behaviors today, or not today. I dealt with a lot of behaviors this week at work, and somebody said it's a full moon. I'm just like, okay, it's a full moon, but at the same time, it's like, my goodness, like the type of stuff that I dealt with this week has been intensified in some weird way, and then on top of that, it's been a lot of things falling through the cracks, like at work and with payroll or with notes not even being present. You sit there, you spend time doing your notes, you spend time doing what you need to do. And I'm the type of person, look, I do not like doing stuff last minute. I don't like having notes over my head. Like, I will go in there and literally just do whatever I need to do to make sure that my notes are done. And then, I did that. And then none of my notes was there, and it ended up costing me in a big way financially. And that was like a different level of frustration that I had to deal with. But nonetheless, we made it through the week. And sometimes it be like that, when things don't necessarily go the way that we anticipate them or the way that we plan for them to go. It's being able to just understand, like, these things happen, and really it's about how you choose to respond in that moment. Okay. Learning to be so in tune with yourself that you recognize when something is going on inside of you before anybody else has the opportunity to even point it out to you. Right? That's a whole nother level of mastery right there, all in itself, because it really forces you to take time and to spend intentional time with yourself. Right? So not just spending time just not doing nothing, that's good, but really just spending time understanding what makes you tick, what gets under your skin, what helps you relax, what helps you stay focused, and most of all, what keeps you motivated to continue to do what it is that you're doing, right? I will often find myself reminding myself, saying, hey, Nate, remember why you're doing what you're doing. Because it's easy to lose focus when you're frustrated, when you're irritated, when you're mad. It's easy to lose focus and to lose sight of why you're doing what you're doing, right? And that's what I found myself doing all throughout this week. It's reminding myself why I do what I do, right? Reminding myself that I have a greater goal and a greater purpose that I want to be able to fulfill, and that these things are just stepping stones or building blocks to help me transition into that next phase, into that next place, right? Not necessarily getting so focused on what's going wrong, but understanding why that thing that appears to be wrong is present in my life at that moment. See, I had a whole nother episode. I'm actually looking at it. I know I'm not going in this direction, but it's all good. Bear with me and let me flow. We are learning these things because as we go through these processes called life, or these struggles that life tends to present us, when we talk about growth, or when we're too stubborn to even acknowledge the fact that we need to change, life has a funny way of bringing obstacles, trials, tribulations, different types of lessons that show up in different ways into our lives, and that will force us to look at ourselves, right? It's like, yo, when I worked at the substance abuse clinic, right, I used to always teach my clients, learn how to respond in the moment. That in moment response only happens when you get to the point of understanding and knowing you so well that when things present themselves, or when things show up, instead of you blowing up, cussing everybody else out and losing your mind, you learn how to be tempered and how to maintain yourself in that moment, regardless of how high that level of frustration might be at that current moment. Look, this is the whole nother level of mastery, because it really causes you to step back and to ask yourself these questions that you would normally wouldn't even think about asking yourself before you've done any kind of self-awareness work, right? These in moment responses really challenge us to look at our level of maturity. Yeah, I'm going there, right? I put this post on TikTok the other day. Listen, hey man, just because you got big age don't mean that you're adulting. Okay. It doesn't make you an adult because you got age behind you, right? I have met the most immature, childlike people at 40, 50, 60 plus years old, right? 10-year-olds are more mature than 40, 50, 60, 70-year-old people. Why? Because sometimes it's a mindset. See, a lot of us, we have been raised and we have got stuck in our ways. Yeah. We got stuck in our ways. We got stuck in that mindset that we will never be able to challenge or change because we haven't come to the point to where we realize that we need to do any work. See, a lot of us think there ain't nothing wrong with us. And we don't need to fix nothing. I don't need to change nothing, right? Well, that's the same broke down mindset that keeps you stuck, right? Thinking that you don't need to change, or you don't need to make any adjustments, or that you're always right, or that you can never be wrong, is the same mindset that keeps you locked into your stubbornness, that keeps you locked in your pride, that keeps you locked in your ego, that keeps you locked in the place to where you can't even grow. Here you are, growing and maturing in age, but you're not growing and maturing in mindset, baby. Yeah, I'm talking real good, okay? I don't care about your big age. I don't care about how much gray you got in your beard or how much gray you got in your hair. What is your mindset like? What is your mentality like? How are you responding? Because look, age does not determine maturity. Your response does. Your reaction does. How you choose to respond to something is going to tell me more about where you are mature-wise than what your face and your features look like. Yeah, he cooking today, right? Because now it really causes us to look at ourselves. We can't blame mom and them no more for the way they taught us. We have too many resources to break the mold. We have too many opportunities before us that a lot of things wasn't present at their time, at their age, right? Mama and daddy did the same thing that they mama and daddy did, right? They taught us in certain ways that they mama and daddy and they grandma and grandpa and they great great grandma and great great grandpa taught them. They followed the pattern, right? Okay, but some of them was like the sheep that realized they was going to the slaughter and said, you know what? I got to do something. I got to change this, right? A lot of us, we are living in the generational cycles of our forefathers, but here we are in the age of information and technology to where we can no longer use that as an excuse to stay in the broke down mentality and mindset and attitude and the way that we move. We can't use that anymore because we have too much at stake and too much in our hands that we can use, that we can break free from. So learning to really sit down with yourself is the key. But here's the thing. How many of us actually like sitting down with ourselves? See, sitting down with yourself is uncomfortable. Why? Because it forces you to shut up and to do something about it, right? You can't blame nobody else and say, you're the reason why I'm here. Sitting down with yourself causes you to go inward and to do those inward reflections. But a lot of people are scared to death to sit down and to pull up that chair with that inner child because that inner child got a whole bunch of stuff to say to you. And you rather go and smoke it out, drink it out, sip it out, lay it out, whatever you do, than to sit down at that table with that inner child and to understand why you do what you do. A lot of us are comfortable with crashing out. A lot of us are comfortable with toxic behavior. A lot of us are comfortable with not moving forward. We're not having anything that progresses growth or causes us to be challenged in growth, and not only in our physical, but in our mental, in our psychological, in our emotional, in our relational aspects, right? A lot of us have learned to be absolutely comfortable in toxic environments, right? You've learned to be so comfortable that you start to seek it out. And you don't even realize most of the time that you're seeking out the toxicity of that relationship. You're trying to make it toxic, right? If it's too peaceful, you're uncomfortable. Oh, you talking good today. If you're right, if it's too quiet, you're going to go find a way to stir shit up so that you can feel more comfortable because you learn to be comfortable in toxic environments. That is something that we have to learn and that we have to be intentional about breaking. It's not just, oh, I listened to a podcast and now I'm a changed man. No, you're not. I listened to a podcast and now I'm a changed woman. No, you're not. You heard something that stirred your emotions, but guess what? That's going to die out because there is no movement, right? The scripture talks about if you plant the seed on a rock, right? And it has no root. Yes, it's going to sprout up, but it's going to die because there's no system. There's no root system taking place. And that's the same concept. You over here hearing all this information, but you're not applying nothing to your life. I'm just stuck. I can't move. I can't seem to move. You can't move because you're not doing nothing. You can't move because you're not applying. Well, you are just a hearer. You're not a doer. Right? You have to learn to do the things that you hear, right? What is wisdom? Wisdom is being able to take somebody else's lesson and apply it to your life so that you don't have to go through the same thing. That's wisdom. A lot of us claim we have wisdom, but there's no application. You're not applying nothing. You're just listening. Oh, that was good. Ooh, it stirred up something inside of you, and you just let it stir up and you let it die. You didn't do anything with it. That's not movement. That's not growth. That's listening. We need application. We need those people who are willing to be uncomfortable enough to apply. That's growth, right? I am uncomfortable. It makes me uncomfortable. It makes me want to run away. It makes me want to go and get the bottle. It makes me want to go and get under somebody. It makes me want to do a whole bunch of things, but I learned to sit in them, right? Did you hear what I said? I choose not to do what I feel pulled to do, which is toxic, which doesn't help me grow, which doesn't help me evolve, which doesn't help me change my mindset. Why? Because the toxic behavior is a thing that keeps you bound. But you have to realize, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, or however you identify yourself, you have to realize that this thing is that toxic. The behavior that you're doing is toxic. The relationships that you keep cycling back to is toxic, right? The things that you have learned to accept and be comfortable with may not necessarily be contributing to your growth. It might be the thing that's holding you back. That man in your life, it might be the thing that's holding you back, right? The woman in your life might be the thing that's holding you back. So we have to learn to own and to accept the things that come into our lives to challenge us, because they don't just show up just to hang out with you. They ain't there for no reason. You think that life is sitting here wasting time? Think about how many people die. See what I'm saying? Life is not just going to sit here and just host you forever. And you're just going to keep doing the same toxic behavior before your expiration date. Understand that look, nothing in life, look at nature, if it's not producing anything, it dies. And that's the same thing with us, right? If we're not producing anything, some parts of us end up dying. And before our physical death even occurs, right? You can go out there and look at a tree that's not producing fruit. That tree might look like it has some form of life, but there's clear evidence that this tree is dying, that there's something going on with this tree to where it's not producing fruit. And nature has the natural ability to just wipe that thing out, and then it goes, it dies, and then it reproduces a different form of life that comes out of it. So what you saying, Nate? I'm simply saying, learn to be uncomfortable with yourself. Because that's where true growth happens. Learn to be intentional. Learn to be more self-aware. Learn to practice those things, right? When things come up in your life, you need to say, what is this thing here to teach me? What is this here to show me? What is this here to reveal to me? We can't keep blaming our crashing out abilities, our crashing out moments on alcohol, or I lost my temper. Or I like this one. This is my favorite one. You made me do that. I ain't make you do nothing. What you did, ladies and gentlemen, was already in your heart to do. Can't nobody make you do anything that's not in your heart. Believe that. It's already in your heart. And unless somebody's forcefully doing something, that's different. But for the most part, we have learned to be comfortable with blaming everybody else for our responses and our reactions. And we have learned to opt out of the responsibility of what in the world that we had to do with it. It's up to you, because nobody is going to continue to hold your hand. Not in this growth thing. Okay. I said in a few episodes ago, look, the veil is gone. The veil is gone. Okay. There is no more hiding behind anything. We are in the season of absolute exposure. The age of Aquarius is here, ladies and gentlemen, whether you believe it or not. I'm not really into all the astrology stuff, but at the same time, look, the age of revelation and insight and exposure is here. And that's not just applying or applies to the celebrities. That applies to you too. That applies to me too. What I was comfortable with, hiding, pretending, acting like it didn't exist, it ain't no longer tolerating that nonsense from us. Right? Don't be surprised when your mess embarrasses you at the most inconvenient time because you refuse to deal with it. I'm going to say it again. Don't be surprised when the stuff that you refuse to deal with starts to show up in your life at moments in which you didn't want it to. Because life ain't playing with you no more. Life ain't playing with us no more. We are either going to level up, we're going to raise our vibration, or we're going to continue to operate in the low vibrational realm. And it's really up to you, because everything is a personal choice. Everything is a choice. Your growth is a choice. Your healing is a choice, right? You have to learn to be intentional about what you choose to respond to in the moment. Thank you for listening. Thank you for joining today's podcast. I hope it was inspirational to you. Let's continue to build, inspire, and grow together. Until the next podcast.